Hello, my name is Dan Bauer and I'm the Superintendent of Danvers Public Schools, and welcome to Superintendent's Corner. Today is December 3rd, the year 2025, and we're so excited for today's episode. It's the very first one, and the purpose of the Superintendent's Corner is to really connect with the community and really share the great opportunities and experiences within our school district. So today our first guest is Mr. Alan Strauss. He's the principal of Danvers High School. And this is his first year as principal, and we're so honored to have him as the very first guest. But before we begin, I would like to give a quick shout out to Miss O'Neill, one of our outstanding teachers at Danvers High School, and her amazing crew that are not only filming, editing, and organizing today's production of Superintendent's Corner. So Mr. Strauss, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
And thank you for your kindness to our kids and Miss O'Neill. They do a great job.
They do a great job. So we're going to lead off. We have a few questions, and certainly if there's something you'd like to add, please do at the end. But really, tell us a little bit about your journey to Danvers High School.
It's been a long one. So I had no desire to be an educator. I kind of fell into it at an early age from some experiences I had in college, and I've done it all. I was a teacher for a long time. I was a coach, class advisor, and a mentor of mine gave me a quote from President Theodore Roosevelt, which is the man in the arena, which is really about, if you want to be a critic, you need to be doing the work, not sitting back and critiquing. And it's the people who are in the arena, who are doing the work every day, who are leading, who, regardless of how successful they are the ones who should be applauded. And the longer that I taught, the more that I realized that if I wanted to make change and really change kids' lives, as great as I had relationships in the classroom, I needed to do it globally. So I went into administration, was a principal in Connecticut for a while, and moved to Mass knowing no one. My son utilized Children's Hospital and I needed to be closer to him. And we've navigated a couple of principalships and superintendent role and realized I miss kids and I miss teachers. No offense, Mr. Bauer. And,
None taken.
And wanted to come back, and Danvers was open and I fell in love with it.
So really, you talked about, inspiration to pursue educational leadership, but could you dive into that a little bit more? Because you have a long career and a varied career and very successful, but really just want to hone in on that, because I think the piece that you bring up about the man in the arena, right? We know that education is challenging, but it's a necessity for a great society. But just could you go in a little further about what really drove you? What was the catalyst that maybe pushed you or prodded you to move forward with educational leadership?
So it really was twofold. One, my daughter, as she was growing up, one of the things that we talked a lot about was don't sit back and let things happen. You need to make things happen. And I also had a mentor who continued to say to me, if you don't like the way things are going, you can't complain if you're not doing something about it. So that, a lot of conversations, that got me into going back to school for becoming an administrator, because I fought it for a long time and said, no, I don't want to go. My dad, who was a teacher, hated administrators. And one of the things he said before he passed away was, I know you're going to go to the dark side, and that's how he kind of viewed administration. And we
Right.
know the joke about that.
That's right.
Never forget the light, and the light is teachers, and the light are students. And if you forget who you are as an administrator, and you forget the importance of students and teachers, you're done. You're going to make decisions that are going to be unpopular. Stay true to your core values, but always understand what's best for students and what's best for staff.
Well said, Mr. Strauss, and you inspire me, and that's.
I appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely. And let's change gears a little bit here and talk about your vision for Danvers High School. And what are some of the things in your sights that you would like to bring to Danvers High School?
It's interesting because when we look at Danvers, I mean, it's a wonderful place. It's an incredibly kind place. The Be Kind legacy drives a lot of what we do on an everyday basis. I think, as we've seen this year, the reputation of Danvers is not the truth about Danvers. So one of my goals is certainly to get the community to understand how good of a place Danvers is. So I think that's the first thing, and we did some of that with Unified, we did some of that with Open House, but I think it's also about providing opportunities for our students, such as what Ms. O'Neill is providing. It's not typical. I've done so many of these in my career. This is the first time I've ever done it where students are driving the bus. And so I think that we have to do a better job of providing real life experiences for our students rather than traditional teacher in front of the classroom type of work. I'm driven by the fact, and I'm at the later stage of my career for sure, but we're trying to prepare students for jobs that we don't even know what they are yet because everything is going so fast. So we have to teach students how to think, not what to think, but how to think, how to process, how to work collaboratively, and how to experience things on the ground floor so that they can learn as quickly as possible. I had a conversation with one of the students, and I asked her whether or not this is what she wants to do, and she said, no, I want to be a nurse. But it's how do we take sitting behind a camera and learning things, how can she take that into her nursing career? Because every skill is transferable. And so the more skills that we develop, I think the better off our kids are going to be. I think that touches the surface, but there's a lot more to it.
Well, there is a lot more to it, and there are two things that come to mind. A very successful, extremely successful open house, which the feedback has been outstanding from various stakeholders. But more importantly, we know that families, they face decisions, right, when choosing high school, and often that decision, is that conversation may start in the elementary years, and we know that does happen because we know parents want what's best for their children, right?
Correct.
We also know that COVID has changed a lot in terms of opportunities, and there are some great options out there. So really, part of the purpose of the open house was to really, show all the great things that are happening in our school, because I think public schools are often basically taken for granted.
Correct.
But the piece is, like, if I were to ask you the question, why Danvers High School? What would be your elevator pitch or your elevator speech on this piece?
There's almost nothing a student can't find to be successful in the future that Danvers High School doesn't offer. And I think that we are telling a different story. I think the other thing that we're doing is we're really looking to broaden our opportunities in the future. So, we're excited about the fact that incoming freshmen will be able to graduate with an EMT certification, which will provide them a job immediately. The opportunity for AP capstone diploma as a junior, which they can then use when they apply as seniors. One of the most prestigious diplomas in the United States. I think the graduate work that you and I are looking to provide so that our students who are graduating and having to make decisions about college, which are incredibly expensive, the opportunity to earn an associate's degree before you graduate is worth $50,000, $60,000, $70,000. The fact that we have students getting early college experience and graduating with 13, 15, 17 credits that are transferable. Those are things that have been happening here. The difference is that I don't think we've done a really good job marketing because educators tend to be very humble and this is just what we do. The landscape has changed.
It has.
And we have to be marketing agents as much as anything else. There was this belief when I first got here. I was like you. I was a coach for years. Some very high-level kids who ended up playing professional sports at some small schools that I coached at and some large schools. And the belief when I got here was that in order to get to the next level athletically, you had to go to other schools, other much larger schools that are successful, and that's not true. I mean, we have students that are going to Columbia to play soccer, Assumption to play baseball. We have one who is signed as a junior to go to University of Arizona, which is one of the top gymnastics schools in the country. Another one going to Trinity. So we have a lot of kids who are going off. It's really changing the story. I was always taught you have two choices. Let people write your story or you write it yourself. I want to write our story.
I applaud you for that and can't agree more. I think as public educators, right, we work really hard. We're humble, right? We're doing the job that, there's so many reasons why people get into education, but certainly that is not our strength, is to really promote all the great things that we have. And I know that we do. And I do want to point out one thing that you said yesterday. You hosted a senior breakfast at the high school. It was a wonderful opportunity where seniors from the community came in from the senior center and matched with our seniors at the high school. But you said something that really impacted me, and it was about our students and how wonderful they are. I don't know if you'd like to follow up on that piece. I know you're humble with that part, but certainly you spoke very directly about how great our kids are. And they do so many different wonderful things.
Yeah, I mean, I've been here 3 months, so, but I have a multitude of experiences in 2 states, in a half dozen schools. It's hard to put into words without sounding trite, but there is a genuineness to our student body that I haven't seen before. There are, we can have conversations, whether they're direct, whether they are, we're not going to allow this behavior anymore, and students are compliant. Our students are kind, they drive the Be Kind legacy. Our students are engaged. Our students want to do well. I don't see disrespect to other people. They're good people who are bright. And it reinvigorates me that our future is going to be in a good place. And I think what I was trying to say to senior citizens is we need to stop reading what's on social media and what's on television about this generation. This generation is, in this country, is in very good shape when I just look at our students in Danvers. And that's not just our top students. That's not just our kids who are ranked 1 and 2. Across the board, there are exceptional people walking the halls in classrooms who are not getting acknowledged. And one of the things that I'm really working hard to do is to start to acknowledge more than just the typical students who are acknowledged, who should always be acknowledged. But I think we need to do a better job of being inclusive in terms of saying, you're wonderful.
And that really resonates with me because you mentioned that there is something for everybody at Danvers High School. And that goes hand in hand. And so I appreciate that. And certainly when I visit the elementary schools, the middle school, and the high school, I see that as a common thread. We have great students. They're working really hard. And they're engaged, which I think is outstanding, which I think reflects upon those that are behind the scenes, our educators and our staff supporting the students. A couple more questions before we wrap up. So, you know, as you've moved forward, and like you said, you've only been here 3 months, and you've done a lot so far, but what have been some of the biggest challenges you've faced as principal, and what have you done to overcome some of the challenges that you may have faced?
I think challenges are subjective. I think there are ways to improve what Danvers is all about and what Danvers is doing. I see challenges as a culture that's a mess and you need to change that. I didn't come into that. I think, how do we get, you know, one of my favorite books is Good to Great from John Collins, and the idea is, how do you go from being good to great? Our kids deserve great in terms of everything they do in the classroom, and not how they produce, but what is happening within classrooms, what's happening extracurricular-wise, how they're seen in the community. We need to provide opportunities, because it's not a great school if we only have programs for certain people. It's not a great school if programs are siloed. So how do we make it a true inclusive community so that all students can feel a sense of belonging and can find their pathway? You know, challenges, obviously, I came in after a cell phone policy was being discussed. And so it falls in our lap, even though all of the legwork had been done previously. I will say the student body has been remarkable in regard to it. And I think if there was a challenge, it was being brand new. Students shouldn't trust, maybe they should respect, but they shouldn't necessarily trust who's the person in. Mm-hmm. For our seniors, it's the third principal in 3 years.
Right.
So that's another shift. So how do we begin to build relationships while implementing a rule that I was not a part of? That's a hurdle. But I think it's students have handled it really well, teachers have handled it really well, and you know, the rest I think is easy. Some of that too is I have a son who is cognitively and physically disabled. Those are challenges. How is he going to make it through his life? Those are challenges. You know, I battled illnesses and it's pretty public. You know, I have leukemia, and those are challenges. I see people at Dana-Farber who are really sick. Those are challenges.
Right.
Our kids are not a challenge. Yeah. It's finding the right place for them.
Awesome. And I just would like to take that a step further. And is there a story maybe you can share that really captures some of the success that you've seen at Danvers High School? Something that may have made an impression on you? Student success or anything meaningful success story?
I think with the way I work, one success tends to discount all the other successes. So I don't want to say a particular day. I don't want to say, I mean, Unified was great. Open House was great. But I think the success that I see is what's happening in the classrooms, walking in the halls. We had some damage in bathrooms, which we've had for a couple of years. We brought everybody together and had a pretty straight talk to. There's been none since. I think we have wonderful teachers who care deeply. So I'm not sure there's one. And I know that doesn't answer your question.
No, that's fine.
But I think there's so much good happening that it's a comfortable place. And it's about how do we get to the next level.
And that's what I would like to end on. We've talked a little bit about some of the initiatives and your vision, because I do agree that many of the jobs that our graduates will face, they're being created or haven't been created yet. And we have to basically provide a skill set that allows them to be flexible and have amazing agility as they manage the changing times in the global economy. But in terms of that piece, what are a few little components that you're really looking to bring forward? And we've talked about the district has so many great things. What are we looking to do to really push it to be great?
So I think we have to provide more, a more wide-ranging, and we have a pretty wide-ranging curriculum, but I think we need to really look at some things and decide, are there other pathways that we can go into? I think we need to do more on the engineering side. I think we are looking at bringing in, for example, a Chapter 74 program with phlebotomy, so that some of our kids who want to go into nursing can at least leave the high school with a certification, which will then help them as they try to get into nursing school, which is becoming more and more competitive. And you and I had this conversation, I would really like to bring in junior ROTC. Not that our kids are necessarily going into the military, but there's some discipline components, some history lessons in there that I think are fantastic for another group of kids. I think we need to talk more to students about what it is that they want. We need to do a much better job with AI. And
we do.
How do we ensure that students know how to utilize AI the right way and how it can help them? we just read a study the other day that talked about at Stanford University, where 90% of the students received A's in their coursework at Stanford, and 60% of them lost their job within the first 6 months because all they did was use AI and they didn't know how to think. So we have to how do we blend the two? I'm less concerned with what somebody knows than I am with, do they know how to think and work with people? Because as I said from the beginning, we don't know what their jobs are. So we can't teach to what we used to do. We have to teach very differently to a new set of skills.
We talked a lot about having that foundation, right?
Correct.
And we're providing that foundation. But also, when we talk about the portrait of the graduate, the skills that are necessary, the competencies to really make that come to fruition, right? So that students can be successful in a multitude of environments, whatever they choose to do.
Right.
So I think that's great. And we're coming at the end of our time. Mr. Strauss, I appreciate you sharing your vision and your background, but is there anything you'd like to end with? Something maybe we didn't touch upon or something?
No, I mean, I would love the community to just understand how good this place is. And, I invite anybody to call my office and we'll give you a tour. We'll have kids give you a tour. I think that they do a phenomenal job really explaining what our building's all about. It is a well-kept secret that I don't think should be a well-kept secret. It's our goal to be a top 50 school, and everything's there for us to do it, and I think we will.
Thank you, Mr. Strauss. Thank you for your time, and
pleasure.
Thank you for your continued leadership.
Thank you.
All right, well, that wraps up today's episode of Superintendent's Corner, and stay tuned for the next edition that will be coming shortly. Thank you.